Today I'm pulling back the curtain on my life abroad in a country where older men aren't just accepted, they're valued and admired. Believe it or not, there are places where women actually prefer older men, and I've found one that feels like paradise. Since moving here, everything has changed for the better. The cost of living? Shockingly low. The quality of life? Better than I ever imagined. If you've ever thought about packing your bags and starting fresh somewhere that appreciates men like us, stick around, because I'm living on just $500 a month, and I wouldn't trade this life for anything. Let's begin. So, what's the catch? Here's where the math gets real. Not promises, places where the numbers actually work. Nicaragua, think Grenada and Leon. Walkable, colonial charm. A furnished one-bedroom runs about $250 to $400 a month. All in, you're often $800 to $1,200 living simply but well. Mexico, skip the pricey coasts. Mérida, Querétaro, Puebla, expect $350 to $600 for a solid one bed. Total? Around $1,000 to $1,600 depending on tacos and taste. Ecuador, Cuenca or Loja if you like cool mountain air. One bedroom, $250 to $450. Monthly life, $800 to $1,200. Slower pace, strong expat support. Bolivia, Cochabamba, Sucre, Value City. One bed, $200 to $350. Total $700 to $1,000, lean but comfortable. Tunisia, Tunis or Sousse for Mediterranean vibes. One bedroom, $250 to $450. Budget $800 to $1,200, cafe culture included. Georgia, Tbilisi or Batumi. Modern apartments, great coffee, easy visas. One bed, $350 to $600. Total $900 to $1,400. Vietnam, Da Nang, Nha Trang. Beaches, scooters, street food heaven. One bed, $250 to $450. Monthly $800 to $1,200. Great quality per dollar. Cambodia, Phnom Penh or Siem Reap. One bed, $250 to $400. Plan on $800 to $1,100. Friendly, laid-back rhythm. When I say total, I mean rent, utilities with fast internet, local transport, groceries and street food, a phone plan, and a few nights out. Insurance, visas, and flights are wild cards. Plan accordingly. Prices swing by city, neighborhood, and lifestyle. Ground truth beats glossy listings. Walk the blocks. Ask locals. Sample a month before you sign long-term. These are starting lines, not finish lines. Your habits draw the map, but the headline holds a calmer, richer daily life for far less than you'd expect. Let's start with the one number that dictates everything else in your life, your rent. Back in the Bay Area, my rent was a soul-crushing figure, a monthly reminder that I was just a hamster on a very expensive wheel. So, when I started my search for a new home abroad, my expectations were, shall we say, managed. I wasn't prepared for the numbers I started seeing. A two-bedroom apartment, fully furnished, with a balcony overlooking a lush green park for $250 a month. I refreshed the page. The number was still there. I showed it to the guest house owner, a friendly woman named Elena, and she just laughed. She told me that was a pretty standard price, maybe even a little high if it didn't include utilities. My brain just couldn't process it. My car payment back home was more than that. This single moment was the first real crack in my old reality. This wasn't some dilapidated shack. We're talking about clean, modern apartments in safe, vibrant neighborhoods, places with high-speed internet, air conditioning, and sometimes even a shared pool. The math was so simple it was almost insulting. Rent, $250. Utilities, including fast fiber optic internet, maybe $50. My total housing cost was less than what I used to spend on weekend brunches and parking tickets. It was freedom. It was the end of that gnawing background hum of financial stress that had been my constant companion for decades. This freed up not just my money but my mental energy. I could start thinking about what I wanted to do with my time, not what I had to do to make rent. It was the first and most profound step in finding not just a house but a home. Now, you're probably thinking, sure, it's cheap, but what kind of neighborhood are you living in? That was my next question. The brochure can show you a sunny apartment, but it doesn't show you the street corner at 10 p.m. So, I did what you should always do. I hit the pavement. I explored the bustling city center, a mix of old-world charm and modern momentum. Then I'd wander into the more residential areas. These were the spots you don't see in the travel guides. I saw older folks, both local and foreign, treated with a casual, easy respect. Shopkeepers would pull out a stool for them to sit on while they chatted. There was a sense of community that I hadn't felt in years. I looked at a few of those modern high-rises. They were nice, sterile. It felt a bit like an expat dormitory. I wanted something more integrated. I ended up finding my sweet spot, a few blocks from the historic quarter, on a street of local families and owner-operated businesses, the best of both worlds. And let's talk about long-stay guest houses. These are your secret weapon when you first arrive. More importantly, you get a built-in network. The owners are fountains of local knowledge. They can connect you with reputable landlords, visa agents, and tell you which restaurants have the best fish tacos. It's the perfect launchpad for your new life. It's how you go from being a tourist to feeling like you actually belong. Okay, so you found the neighborhood. Now comes the part that trips up a lot of people, securing the lease. But here's the inside track. A handshake, a relationship, more than a mountain of paperwork. I met my landlord, Mr. Fan, through the owner of my guest house. We didn't use a realtor or a complicated contract. We had a coffee. His main concern wasn't my credit score. It was whether I seemed like a respectful person who wouldn't cause trouble. My age and calm demeanor were his best references. I also sat down with another expat, David, a retired teacher from Florida here 5 years. He told me his story negotiating his first lease. Instead of hardball haggling, he took a different approach. He invited the owner for a beer, told him about his life as a teacher, explained his situation. The owner appreciated the direct, respectful approach. He lowered the rent. He included electricity in the monthly fee. David's advice was golden. Forget the hardball tactics. Here you build a bridge, you don't win a battle. Then there's the visa situation, the bureaucratic beast. You hear horror stories about endless paperwork and rejections, but many countries are courting retirees. They've streamlined the process. I came on a standard tourist visa, easily extendable for months. Local fixers or visa agents will handle the paperwork for a reasonable fee. For about $100, I had a professional navigate the whole process for me. It removed the stress, making it just another to-do, right after finding the best spot for sunset cocktails, you know. So, you've got your beautiful, ridiculously affordable apartment. What happens next? This is where the magic really begins. The ripple effect of that low rent starts to transform every other aspect of your life. It becomes your freedom fund. It's the ability to say yes to a spontaneous weekend trip to the mountains or a boat tour of the nearby islands without having to check your budget first. One of the first things I did was hire a cleaning lady. For about $10, a wonderful woman comes twice a week, handles the cleaning, the laundry, the ironing. It bought me back hours of my time each week. Hours I could now spend exploring, learning the language, or just sitting at a cafe and watching the world go by. This financial freedom also impacts your health. You can afford to eat fresh, healthy meals, get a weekly massage. A 1-hour traditional massage here costs about $8. Back home, that's the price of a fancy coffee. These small, consistent investments in my health have had a massive impact. I have more energy, I sleep better, I feel 10 years younger. You stop being a consumer and start being a participant. You have the time and resources to engage with the community, build relationships. You're no longer just the old guy struggling to keep up. You become the interesting man from abroad who has time to chat, wisdom to share, and a genuine smile on his face because he's not worried about next month's bills. Once you've solved the housing puzzle, you discover the next layer of this unbelievable reality: the food. Forget everything you know about grocery bills. I'm talking about a feast for $5. No, that's not an exaggeration for the camera. The first time I paid a bill that low, I honestly thought the waitress had made a mistake. I tried to correct her, and she just gave me this confused look. Why would you want to pay more, old man? My daily food adventure usually starts at the local market. It's an explosion of sights, sounds, and smells. Mountains of dragon fruit, mangoes so ripe they perfume the air. I'll fill up a huge bag, and the total cost is usually around $3 or $4. The vendors get to know you. They'll throw in an extra lime, a handful of herbs for free, a small gesture that makes you feel like part of the fabric of the place. But let's be honest, with prices this low, cooking often feels optional. The street food scene here is a culture unto itself. This isn't just cheap fuel, it's culinary art, served up on a plastic stool on a busy sidewalk. Even when you want to treat yourself, the cost is laughable. When the bill came, it was under $30. We just sat there, shaking our heads and laughing. It's about the sheer, unadulterated joy of being able to enjoy one of life's greatest pleasures, good food, without a single shred of financial guilt. So, you're housed and well-fed. How do you get around to enjoy this amazing new life? Forget $1,000 car payments, insurance that costs more than your rent, and the endless hunt for parking. Here, your chariot awaits for pocket change. My primary ride is a scooter. For about $50 a month, I rent a reliable little machine that gives me complete freedom. It's a practical, zippy tool that turns a traffic jam into a minor inconvenience. It's an experience, not just a commute. For longer distances or on rainy days, there's a whole ecosystem of options. Local buses, tuk-tuks, ride-hailing apps are everywhere. The difference? The price. A 10-minute car ride that would easily be $15 to $20 in a US city is about $3 here. It's so affordable that you start using it for ridiculously short distances just because you can. This freedom of movement has a profound psychological effect. The entire city, and even the surrounding countryside, becomes your backyard. You become more adventurous, more spontaneous. The low cost and ease of transport encourage exploration. Getting around isn't a chore you have to budget for. It's a frictionless part of the adventure. All right, let's talk about the big one. The question I get asked more than any other, especially by guys my age: what about healthcare? We come from a country where a simple trip to the emergency room can bankrupt you, and the fear of medical bills is a national pastime, but I'm here to tell you, you're in for a pleasant surprise. This is the healthcare system that won't give you a heart attack from the bill. I had my first experience a few months after I arrived. I came down with a nasty infection. I was nervous picturing a chaotic, underfunded clinic, and saw an English-speaking, Western-trained doctor within half an hour. He was professional, thorough, and took his time to explain everything. I braced myself for the final bill. The receptionist handed me the invoice. The grand total, $45. I stared at it for a solid minute. A similar visit in the US, even with decent insurance, would have been hundreds, if not thousands, out of pocket. It was a moment of profound relief. This isn't a fluke. I spoke with a retired dentist from Arizona who needed a complex root canal and a crown. His quote in the States was over $4,000. Here, he had the entire procedure done by a top-rated specialist for about $500. The quality, he said, was just as good, if not better. From routine checkups for $20 to dental cleanings for $15. The system is designed to be accessible. This removes a massive weight from your shoulders. You no longer have to live in fear of getting sick. You can just live. It's a peace of mind that, frankly, is priceless. So, you're spending less on food, a pittance on transport, and you're not terrified of getting sick. What's the result of all these savings? It's not just about piling up money in the bank. The real dividend you get from this life isn't paid in dollars. It's paid in time. All that money you're not spending on basics buys you back hours, days, weeks. Time you no longer have to spend working a job you hate or worrying about your budget. This is the ultimate luxury. This abundance of time lets you rediscover parts of yourself. Remember that hobby you gave up in your 30s? Now you have time for it. Painting again, learning guitar, taking up scuba diving. I started learning the local language, not because I have to, but because I have the mental bandwidth and the time to sit with a tutor. This free time transforms your social life. No more squeezing in a quick drink between commute and exhaustion. Long, leisurely lunches. Relationships become deeper because they're not rushed. You have the energy to be present, to listen, to engage. You're making real friends. You wake up and the day is a blank canvas. Be productive. Be social. Be adventurous. Be perfectly, gloriously lazy. You're not a passenger. You're the pilot. That freedom, control of your time, is why this life feels so rich. Now we get to the heart of it. The part that's harder to quantify on a spreadsheet but is infinitely more valuable than a cheap apartment or a dollar beer. Back in the West, I felt like my age was becoming a liability. You start to feel like you're fading into the background. But here, it's the exact opposite. Here, age is a passport. It's a form of currency that grants you access, credibility, and a level of respect I hadn't experienced in decades. I sat down with a local university student, a bright young woman named Mai, and asked her about this directly.
When an older person speaks, we listen, because they have seen things we have not. Their gray hair is not a sign of being old, but a sign of having lived.
It was such a simple, profound statement. My wrinkles and graying temples weren't seen as decay, they were seen as a resume. This shift changes how you carry yourself. You find yourself being asked for advice by younger expats and locals alike, on everything from career choices to relationship problems. You're not just the old foreign guy in the corner. You become a quiet pillar of the community, a source of stability and perspective. It's an incredible feeling to go from feeling invisible to feeling seen, valued, and genuinely respected for the one thing you can't change, the life you've already lived. It's a currency that no amount of money can buy. This newfound respect isn't just a passive thing. It actively opens doors for you. It gets you invited into spaces you would never have access to as a typical tourist. He wanted me to be there as a guest of honor. When I arrived, they gave me the best seat at the table, right next to the grandfather. They served me first. Throughout the evening, they didn't treat me like an outsider. They treated me like a visiting dignitary. They wanted my perspective. They valued my presence. This extends beyond private homes and into the public square. There's an established social order where older men naturally gravitate towards each other, forming a sort of informal council. As a foreign man of a certain age, you are often welcomed into this circle. They are curious about your life and they are happy to share theirs. This is the opposite of the age segregation you so often see in the West. Here, the social landscape is multi-generational. Young people actively seek out the company of their elders, and elders play a visible, vital role in the community. By simply being present, by being yourself, you are automatically granted a seat at this table. You are included, your opinion is sought, and your presence is appreciated. It's a powerful antidote to the loneliness and isolation that can creep in as you get older. You feel connected, relevant, and very much a part of the world around you. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the one you've been waiting for. Dating. Back home, If you're a man over 50 on a dating app, it can feel like you're screaming into the void. You're often filtered out, ignored, on the wrong side of the hill. Here, that narrative is completely flipped. An older man is not seen as a relic, he's seen as a catch. I had a conversation with local women in their 30s and 40s at a cafe. I asked them point blank what they find attractive. Their answers were eye-opening. Calm, knows who he is, doesn't play games. One woman said, "A younger man is still trying to find himself. An older man has already found himself." They associated age with security, financially and emotionally. An older partner as someone to build a peaceful, stable life with. This isn't a fetish or gold digging, it's a deeply ingrained cultural value. An older Western man often brings an egalitarian view of relationships. You're not just older, you're refreshingly different. Your dating pool expands exponentially. Engaging conversations, genuine connections, intelligent women, beautiful women, interesting women, attracted to you for who you are. The feeling is transformative. From the sidelines of the dating game to a starting player, it's not about recapturing youth, it's about enjoying your prime. Now, it would be easy to let all this go to your head. The respect, the deference, the attention, it can be a potent cocktail for the male ego. And you do see guys who fall into that trap. They come here and start acting like colonial lords. They mistake kindness for weakness. Those guys flame out fast. The key, I've learned, is to separate the ego trip from genuine respect. This isn't about you being special. It's about fitting into a pre-existing cultural framework. The respect you receive is conditional. It's up to you to live up to that expectation. You have to earn it every day through your actions, by being a good neighbor, by being patient, by showing respect for their customs. I had to check my own ego early on. In my first month, I got frustrated in a government office and raised my voice. An older local man put a calm hand on my arm and shook his head gently. He said nothing, but the message was clear. That's not how we do things here. An older man should have more patience. It was humbling and incredibly valuable. The respect you get here isn't a license to be a jerk. It's a responsibility to be a gentleman, to be a role model, to be the calm, wise man they expect you to be. Ultimately, the goal isn't to feel like a king, but to feel like a respected member of a community. A king rules from above. A community member belongs within. The real gift isn't the fleeting ego boost. It's the deep, abiding sense of belonging. It's the quiet confidence from knowing your place is secure, not because of your bank account, but because of the person you've become. That's not an ego trip, that's dignity. So far, it sounds like a perfect dream, right? Cheap rent, $5 feasts, endless respect. It would be easy for me to end the story there, but I promised you the real story, not a sales pitch. And the real story is where the fantasy collides with reality, because it isn't all cocktails on the beach. There are real challenges, frustrating roadblocks, and genuine risks. The honeymoon phase is incredible, but what comes after will test your patience, will test your wallet, and will test your resolve. The language barrier becomes a brick wall. It's incredibly humbling and frustrating to have the mind of a 60-year-old man, but the communication skills of a toddler. Some misunderstandings are comical, others can be costly. Simple tasks can balloon into day-long ordeals, leaving you feeling exhausted and isolated. Then there are the scams. These affordable havens can attract people who see expats as walking ATMs. It can be simple dual pricing at the market, or more sophisticated scams, paying a huge deposit for an apartment that doesn't exist, or getting roped into a fake business opportunity. Your respected status can actually make you a bigger target. You must develop a new kind of street smarts, a friendly but firm skepticism. learn to say no with a smile. And always trust your gut when a deal feels too good to be true. Respect is freely given. Trust must be earned by you and by those you deal with. Bureaucracy in a developing country is its own special kind of performance art. It's a world of long lines, mysterious paperwork, and rules that seem to change by the hour. My visa extension, what I thought was a simple formality, was suddenly flagged for an obscure document I'd never heard of. My application stalled. I spent 2 weeks bouncing between government offices, getting conflicting information, and feeling my blood pressure rise with every slam shutter and dismissive wave. My salvation came in the form of a fixer. My landlord connected me with Mrs. Lin, a no-nonsense, middle-aged woman who knew everyone and every loophole. I explained my situation. She listened, made a few phone calls, and calmly said it could be solved for about $150. It felt like a ransom, but I was desperate. She took my paperwork. Sure enough, I returned 2 days later. My passport had the correct stamp, my visa was extended, and the problem had vanished. I never found out what the issue was, and I didn't ask. Mrs. Lin was my first real lesson. You need local allies. Vet people carefully, get recommendations from long-term expats. Don't hand your passport and money to just any stranger you meet on the street. Finding a good lawyer, a reliable visa agent, or a well-connected fixer is not a luxury. It's an essential part of your toolkit. It's a necessary expense to protect your peace of mind and your legal status in your new home. This might be the most unexpected challenge of all. In a place where you are surrounded by friendly people, it is still shockingly easy to feel completely and utterly alone. It's the loneliness paradox. You can be the life of the party and still go home to your apartment feeling a profound sense of isolation. Cultural gaps, linguistic gaps, can sometimes feel like a pane of glass between you and everyone else. You can see and hear them, but you can't quite connect on that deeper level. This feeling often creeps in during holidays. You don't share the decades of inside jokes, the shared history, the deep-seated cultural references. You miss being able to just effortlessly be yourself without having to constantly translate your thoughts and personality. The healthcare system, while affordable, also has its limits. For a broken bone, it's fantastic. But for complex chronic conditions, the local options might not be up to snuff. Many long-term expats maintain high-quality international health insurance that includes medical evacuation. If something truly serious happens, the best plan is a plane ticket. So, the dream life requires a plan B. It requires building a new support network from scratch. It means seeking out other expats. It means making a real effort to learn the language. And it means being honest with yourself. You have to have the strength to build your own sense of home, because no one is going to build it for you. So, after all the $5 feasts, the bureaucratic headaches, the newfound respect, and the quiet moments of loneliness, is it worth the plane ticket? My answer is an unequivocal, resounding yes. But it comes with a major asterisk. This isn't a magic pill for a perfect life. It's an opportunity to build a better one, with your own 2 hands. The real gain isn't just a lower cost of living, it's a higher quality of existence. It's the dignity, the freedom, and the adventure. Comfortable modern apartment under $300 a month, incredible meals for a few dollars, a rich, fulfilling, and comfortable life for under $1,000 a month. The numbers work, but the numbers are just the foundation. You must embrace the challenges as part of the adventure. There will be days of frustration, moments of miscommunication, and pangs of homesickness. You will have to be a student again. You will have to be both open-hearted and shrewd. It's a path that demands resilience, curiosity, and a willingness to step far outside your comfort zone. You trade the stress of survival for the joy of living. You trade invisibility for respect. You trade a monotonous routine for daily discovery. For me, it has been a complete revitalization of body and spirit. I feel more engaged, more alive, and more optimistic about the future than I have in 30 years. It's not about escaping old age, it's about embracing it in a place that celebrates what it represents, where your life experience is not your baggage, but your greatest asset. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, which country would you move to and why? What part of this life appeals to you the most? If you found this journey inspiring, do me a favor and smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and never, ever let anyone tell you that your best days are behind you. The golden hour is waiting.